From the kitchen of the cabin, it's the 5 Games for Doomsday review. Trade on the Tigris. The magic circle is a flimsy thing, like the rainbow film of a soap bubble. There are so many things that can pop it. There are those that refuse to step in the first place, those that would rather denigrate than participate. They are stolid in their refusal to acknowledge anything that fails to conform to their sense of seemly. The power of seemly is rarely spoken about, but it dictates so many of our actions. Snobbery is the symptom of having your sense of seemly disrupted. Seemly is the thing that makes us refuse to do the things that could be rewarding or fun or valuable in some quantifiable way. We deny ourselves the good in favour of the seemly. Just one tiny exhalation of air that presages a snort can pop the fairy liquid magic circle. To be honest though, I've honed my gaming group so that is rarely a problem. It's when people are willing and eager to traverse the event horizon and be sucked into the game experience that the game itself has to step in. Like Atlas, it hoists the fragile magic circle onto its shoulders, and it needs to be strong enough to keep it up there until the appointed time when we can all step out of the circle and return to the slightly blurry and slightly duller real world. That's why I was a little concerned when I sat down to play Trade on the Tigris from Ryan Sturm and Jeff Engelstein. Firstly, there was a lot of stake in terms of the time already invested for me. I was one of the people who had followed the development of this game on the Ludology podcast, and as a result, I felt a modicum of irrational ownership over the game. I felt, a little bit, like it was my game too. Secondly, the game has a free-form trading phase at its heart, and such reliance on above-table interaction can produce a very frail gaming experience that can break if the game isn't designed with rigour. Thankfully, this is a masterful design that utilises its core mechanic with grace and aplomb. In Trade on the Tigris, players take on the roles of those foundational nations that formed around the Fertile Crescent and invented things like time and numbers. Their political and religious affiliations will start as a tabula rasa, but canny trading will determine if they rule with fairness and equanimity or the solid iron rod of absolute power. Goods cards are traded and sets of these cards are redeemed for points, but these cards are split into 2 halves. The top half carries the good and the bottom half carries dictates that the players will have to abide by after turning the cards in. As well as unleashing barbarians onto the player's nascent society, these dictates push or pull the country's political and religious leanings. There are 2 tracks in the game that can be manipulated by the dictates on the bottom of the cards. Democracy, pulling against the far less anachronistic dictatorship, and the warlike god Marduk, scrabbling with the insufferable hippie Asher. Specialisation in 2 of these 4 areas will score considerable bonus points at the end of the game. Players produce their own goods, but these are randomly distributed on cards at the beginning of every round, and the sets required to score the points and win the game must be won through trade with the other players. Trade on the Tigris is a game that truly lives up to the name on the box. Everything is centred around the trade phase, and there is more than enough for players to do in each round's allotted 5 minutes of trade to keep everyone occupied. Card distribution is varied enough to ensure that you almost never draw what you want, and so are compelled to go to those around you to get it. Self-interest propels you into interaction with those around the table, and trade is mutually beneficial enough to keep you going back to the well. There are a few take-that cards in the game, but receiving them provides you with that challenge of how to offload them onto others, and as games are all about challenge, this is a feature, not a bug. There are enough teeth in this game to promote mischief without encouraging the type of brutality that would drive people from it. The arc of this game is beautifully balanced, with moments of frantic collection and moments of delicate manipulation. This is not a game of unrelenting stress or placid sang-froid, but it gives you enough touches of both to maintain interest. It is this vacillation that builds the struts and buttresses that keep the magic circle standing. Trade on the Tigris is a game that takes a core concept and decorates it with just enough to enhance it and leaves out the kind of gratuitous crenellation that would bog it down. This game is sleek and lean and tense and sometimes hilarious. My worries were unfounded with trade on the Tigris. The design of this game is rigorous enough to maintain immersion and engagement without any worry that the magic circle will pop and will end up covered in washing up liquid. Thank you for listening, and this review was made possible by the donations of my patrons. You can become one too at patreon.com/5G4D.